Hello, it's Sue here with another design tutorial from MakerBiz Graphics. In this tutorial, I'm just going to run through quick design tips all about type, and there are 5 of them to keep in mind when you're actually creating your designs for your social media posts. So number 1 is to stick to 2 or 3 fonts, and that's important across all of your branding and to make sure you use those fonts in everything that you do. Number 2, make sure that the text is large enough to read. So you can see here this text is really tiny. Just keep in mind when you're looking at something maybe on your computer screen, it's going to obviously be a lot larger than it is when you're looking at something on your phone. So just keep that in mind and make sure that you're using a type size that is large enough for people to read without having to actually enlarge the image. Number 3, choose text alignment that suits your image. So you can see in this image, we've got a, let's say you created ceramics and this was one of your product photos. You want to have your text sitting where it's not conflicting with the image. So just as an example, if you were to have this sitting somewhere else, let's see if I can just highlight and group these together. So I'll just show you that again actually. So if you've got 2 different pieces of type and you want to move them as one, you can just do that easily. Just ungroup them and show you. So highlight the first one and then hold down the Shift key and click on the other line of type, and then you can just do Command G or on a Mac or Control G on a PC, or you can just come up to the menu bar here and click on group. And now when you move this, you're going to move everything at the same time, which is pretty handy. So once you've got the type that you want to use with your image, and just for an example, let's say you were thinking of centering it, well, that's really conflicting obviously with the image. So just have a look depending on what image you're using and find a spot within the design where it's actually going to be very clear and very easy to read the type that you're using. And for this one, I'm setting it left and sitting it just above the image, but that's something just to keep in mind. So tip number 4, white space is your friend. This is where really less is more. It's often the case in design. Sometimes it's easy to try and include too many things at once, and that can just be a bit confusing for the eye. It can be difficult to get your message across. So just when you're actually putting something together, having some white space, it just gives the eye a bit of relief, and it actually draws you in to say to the text in this case that you've got in the center here, because it's sitting in the white space. If I just remove, that's just a white circle behind. If I remove it, you can see that that's, I don't know, it's not as easy to read. It's harder for the eye, with the dots sitting right behind there. If you actually consider putting something behind the text just to give it a bit more space, a bit more sort of air to breathe, it can actually be a lot more impactful. So tip number 4, white space is your friend. And then finally, tip number 5, just make sure your text is easy to read. This is actually a really common error that I see on a lot of graphics. And it's just where you've got text sitting over something that's a similar color. And the thing to do is just obviously make sure that that isn't the case. So if you've got a brand color that is, going to work with whatever image you're using, just make sure that you're actually choosing color that is going to be easy to read. Alternatively, if you weren't able to do that for some reason and you had to use a text color that was going to conflict, then you can actually just make sure you're moving it to sit it in a different spot on the image, so that it is easier to read, and again your eye is drawn to the text to get the message across. So that's 5 very quick tips. I'm going to just come back in and make that the blue again, because I prefer that of the two, but obviously your choice when you're designing your own graphics. But yeah, just keep those tips in mind and you'll have some lovely eye-catching and easy to read and impactful graphics on your Instagram feed. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please click the thumbs up button, subscribe, and click the bell button so you get notified of new tutorials like this in the future. You can also visit my website at makerbizgraphics.com and follow me on Instagram at makerbizgraphics. I'd love to see you there. If you'd like to share your design, just tag me and use the hashtag #mymakerbizgraphics. I can't wait to see what you create.